So many of you, like me yesterday, might have seen an article in the Daily Mail making claims that a lady called Ella Draper had forced her young two children to make false claims against their father and 80 plus other high-ranking members of our society in London. I read this article yesterday. It was the first I'd heard of this case at all. It never crossed my path before yesterday. Alarm bells started ringing as soon as I heard about satanic ritual abuse. Since the beginning of the year, I've been doing quite a lot of research into MK Ultra. So when I heard about the babies being sacrificed and the blood being drank, these kind of rituals are almost generic amongst Satanists and occultists. It wasn't the first time that I'd heard of this specific sacrifice taking place, especially with the dancing around of the skulls as well. That kind of stuff happens at Bohemian Grove and that all the time. So I did some more research of my own into Ella Draper's story. I just went onto YouTube, typed in her name, and the first thing that came up was her video testimony after she'd had to flee the country and go back to Russia because the UK state are trying to prosecute her for the abuse while covering up the satanic paedophile ring that's still existing in London at the moment. So it's not just the Hampstead case that's coming up at the moment. There's one in Oxford that's being exposed, the Westminster paedophile ring's being exposed at the moment. But all of these mainstream outlets are trying to brush it under the rug, blame the whistleblowers, instead of bringing justice to the abusers. Now, one thing that did catch my eye with this story was the details that these children go into about the abuse and the abusers. This little boy, Gabriel, can name like 300 plus birthmarks, tattoos and piercings that these alleged abusers have in very intimate areas of their bodies that just don't seem to have been investigated by the police at all. The video interviews that the children had with the police are uploaded to YouTube as well. I watched those yesterday. I also read the medical report that had been posted to David Icke's website. And having looked at all of this information volunteered on the internet, it looks like a massive cover-up to the highest levels of our society. So we've got Justice Porfman, who was the judge on this case, who said that the claims were baseless and that they were hateful. It was all the mother's fault. Conveniently, this justice, this judge, this demonic whore, is the same one that dismissed the Holly Greig case in Scotland as well, which are almost identical claims that these children are making of satanic ritual abuse happening at the highest levels of society. So teachers, lawyers, solicitors, doctors, social workers, these people are involved in these satanic paedophile cults existing in the UK. I mean, I found it quite insulting to my intelligence that the Daily Mail expected me to believe that this woman had made all of these claims, false claims, and made her children make these false claims purely for attention. I mean, you listen to these children and you look at these medical reports and it's been proven and confirmed that there was definitely abuse that happened to these children. But I don't understand why these investigations into the alleged abusers haven't been made. I personally am ready to go and protest outside this school until every single one of these alleged abusers has been examined for these birthmarks, piercings and tattoos that this little boy is claiming that he has seen on them. Until these investigations are done, how can this case be closed? It can't be, and it's insulting to the rest of us for them to expect us to just dismiss this. I mean, a lot of us know that this stuff has been going on for generations. That's one thing that I did hear in the story, is that it's on the dad's side of the family. The mother's completely innocent. She's a whistleblower. It's the dad's side of the family. Apparently the mother's involved in the abuse and the grandmother's involved in the abuse as well. So it's generational. It's been happening for a really long time. I mean, it's really hard to hear, it's really hard to watch. These testimonies and interviews and stuff are on the internet now, they're on YouTube. So you can have a look at them and make your own conclusions. I'm not saying believe me, what I am saying is don't believe the fucking Daily Mail, because they are lying. And that's blatantly obvious just for the fact that they had to get this corrupt demonic whore justice to proceed this case. At the end of the day, the way I'm looking at this now is there hasn't been a proper investigation done by the police or by the court officials. Looking at the police interviews that happened and that are uploaded to the internet, the police officer interviewing these children is completely underqualified. He's not qualified to be doing these interviews. At no point was there any reference to the names of the abusers, to the identifier marks on the abusers. The interview with the little boy, he was more interested, the policeman was more interested in linking his mother to the cult than he was about finding out about this big black dildo that this little boy was claiming was being shoved up his arse at school every day. He wasn't really interested in that. It was more about linking the mother to the cult. Then when he was interviewing the little girl, he was more interested in how she knew about weed than how she knew about sex and sacrificing babies. I mean, this police officer is a complete fucking moron. He needs to be arrested, in my opinion, and so does this justice that has claimed that there's no basis to these claims at all. This needs investigating again, and if they're not prepared to do it, I'm calling for society to do it, for the people to do it, because I'm prepared to go and camp outside this school until these investigations are done. I know if I had these claims made about me and all I had to do to prove my innocence was to strip off and show a police officer or show somebody that I don't have these marks, I don't have these birthmarks or these piercings, I would do that. I would volunteer that information right away. Now, even if just one of these 80 plus alleged abusers volunteered this information, it would make everything else that the children had said questionable. The fact that that hasn't happened, as far as I'm concerned, makes everything those children have said credible. And it needs to be investigated properly, not covered up. This is a complete fucking cover-up. And everybody's just passing off like, oh, you can't believe the children, their mother told them to do it, she gave them weed soup. I mean, you listen to these police interviews and they are trying to find anything they can to link the mother with abuse and her partner Abraham, rather than focusing on the alleged abusers that have been named and described in detail by these children. I mean, like, we're talking piercings on the genitals, warts by the genitals, red dots on the willies and stuff. Like, how are these children going to be able to just make these claims up? I don't believe that personally has happened. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is a massive fucking cover-up. I think this judge is in on it. She's a paedophile, satanic, demonic whore, and she needs to be arrested along with all of these alleged abusers. They need to be arrested and investigated. Simple. And it hasn't happened. It's not happening. They're just passing it off in the mainstream media as a hoax. So they don't have to do these investigations, and we need to do something about this as the people. Like, it's blatantly obvious from the information, the medical reports and stuff that are published to the internet by the whistleblower mother, that this stuff happened, that she believes her children, I believe her children, a lot of other people believe her children over these mainstream articles that are trying to cover it up. So now the next step is, what can we do about it? Anonymous have I mean, I don't like Anonymous, you know what I'm like, but they have their uses. They have volunteered the personal details of all of these alleged abusers, which I have linked to this video. It's got their names, their email addresses, their phone numbers, their addresses, because these are alleged child abusers at the end of the day, and as the people of this country, we have a right to know who these paedophiles are that are existing in our communities. And we have the right to stop them as well and bring justice to the children and other children that potentially have been saved now because of this whistleblowing. They want to brush it under the rug and pretend that it never happened. There's no basis to these claims. Well, anyone with like a brain between their ears knows that this shit is happening. It's happening at the highest levels of our society, and we're the only ones that can do something about it because the police are not going to investigate themselves. That's one thing that I realised when this little boy was naming names. He was naming police officers that this interviewing police officer would know on a personal basis. You could tell just from listening to this interview that this police officer did not believe these children. He didn't believe it. He didn't want to hear it. And he was, in my opinion, he was a complete incompetent cock. He never should have been in that position to be doing those interviews in the first place. He obviously is unqualified. He doesn't know what he's doing. He didn't believe them. He'd already gone in with the intention to disprove everything they were saying, instead of listening to these children. It's a complete fuck up on the part of the state. Absolute fuck up. And I'm not going to let this story die. Now I've found it, now I've heard it, and now I believe what these children and what this mother is saying. I'm going to keep fighting for these kids and for this story to be investigated properly. Because I live in this country. Do you know what I mean? Like, London is the capital of where I live. If this stuff is happening, we deserve to know, and we deserve to stop it as well. That's our right, and that's their right as well. So here's my little 2 pence worth. I mean, I only found out about this yesterday. I literally haven't been to sleep. I have been up all night listening to testimonies, watching the police interviews, reading the medical reports, and absolutely everything is leading and pointing to this being a fucking cover-up of the highest degree, to the highest levels of our society. They are covering this up. So let's expose them, and let's fucking arrest them. Let's put the people in prison that actually deserve to go to prison. Because we can do it. I'm going to create a Facebook event to go down to this school in Hampstead, Christchurch School in Hampstead. I personally will be there until these investigations into the birthmarks, piercings and tattoos have been made. If any of these teachers or parents that have been accused turn out to have any of these birthmarks or piercings or tattoos that Gabriel has claimed that they've got, then every single child that goes to that school needs to be examined for abuse as well. And if there is abuse happening, then they all need to be taken out of the care of their parents. The parents and teachers and stuff need to be arrested, and then we deal with it from there. But we fucking deal with it. We don't ignore it and let the mainstream media pass this off as a hoax. Because it's fucking not. There is not one piece of evidence that has been volunteered by this family, by the whistleblowing side of the family, that I think is a hoax. Not one part of it. I do understand where people are saying that the parents are coaxing the children to say things on the camera, but the way I perceived that was, if the children had spoken to the parents off camera about these things, when they're saying on camera, the parents just want to make sure that they're getting everything across on camera that they said off camera as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the moment, kids will forget things. Well, I even do it when I'm doing my videos, and I think afterwards, oh, I forgot to say that, I forgot to say that. Do you know what I mean? So I can understand why the parents would be coaxing them to say things that they'd already previously claimed. I don't think any of these are false claims or fabricated claims. I think it was just to jog their memory to what happened. And these kids are completely desensitized to everything they're saying. We're talking about an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old talking about having plastic willies shoved up their ass at school. That's not a fucking joke. That is something really fucking serious, and that needs to be investigated thoroughly, properly, now, today.